loyalty, and respect with all the members of the MFC family. So number 4, I shall be a witness to the word of God's love. So how to be a witness, brothers and sisters? Actively evangelize. And do mission. So evangelize, we should be part of this uh, like actively evangelize to our brothers and sisters, inviting our own family in our CLSS, in our own neighbors, our family friends, and also our co-workers, if we can invite them to attend our Christian life seminars. And do mission, if we commit to do mission. So our community are always welcome to all members who want to go mission. So most of our brothers and sisters in this community, they also do the service in our parish. So our individual parish, brothers and sisters. So love and serve our own parish. So we should also love and care for the poor, so as to be a witness to the world of God's love. So we do service in our work with the poor, brothers and sisters. So that's our MFC covenant. So as we move forward, as we read the Bible, brothers and sisters, we found out that it has its two parts, the Old Testament and the New Testaments. And these Old and New Testaments are covenants. So as a baptized Christians, we have a covenant relationship with one another. So we have a commitment of loyalty, unity, and service. But all Christians are actually have a covenant with God by virtue of baptism. So we need to understand more about our covenant, brothers and sisters. So what is this? How do we understand about this? So being our basic relationship with God, our covenant direct us in the way we live our Christian life. So what is a covenant? A covenant, it is a solemn agreement between parties through which they commit themselves to certain relationships, tasks, obligations, or ways of living. So there are two types of covenant relationship. So two types. Number 1 is between parties equal in power and position. With a concrete example of this in the Bible is between Abraham and Abimelech, David and Jonathan, and as married partners. So married partners, we should share with respect. We should share respect with our wives, our husbands, with love, and uphold dignity. So the other one, the letter B is between parties unequal in power and position. So in this case, it is unequally bestowed by the greater or the lesser. So the complete example for this is God and his people. So number 3 is covenant agreements do not just bind persons to something outside themselves. So rather than the parties are bound in personal way. So the concrete example for this is God's covenant with Abraham in Genesis 15, But if I will read this, it's a little bit long. So in that readings, brothers and sisters, in Genesis 15, God's covenant with Abraham says that the Lord tells Abraham that he can know for sure that it is that his offspring will be aliens in a foreign land where they will be enslaved and oppressed for 400 years. But God will judge their oppressors and bring them out of that land with great wealth. So Abraham himself will die peacefully at an old age. So it's between the covenant of God, between God and Abraham. So as I continue, brothers and sisters, what is this? That's the Old Testament, right? So the Old Testament, there are some basic truths from the Old Testament. So covenant. Covenant is a treaty or contract which establishes a relationship between two parties, bound them together. So this is number one basic truth from the Old Testament. So wherein conditions and clauses are important because it's a treaty or contract that was stated in the Old Testament. But more important was that which they were meant to safeguard or follow whatever is written in the contract to have a lasting relationship. So through this covenant, brothers and sisters, God and his people are joined together because it's a treaty or a contract. Number two, the covenant was not a treaty between equals, but between a mighty person and a lesser person. So the concrete example for this, it was between God and God Almighty and a people owing their existence to him, like us. So it was issued by the stronger king at his initiative. So the old covenant was initiated by God. So the contents of the covenant, number three. That's number three, the contents of the covenant. So what is the contents? So in Exodus 20 verses 2, that is the introduction to the Ten Commandments, where it says that I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt where you were slaves. So that's explains how God freed the people first, then entered into a covenant. So that's why God did not give the commandments first, but then free the people if they obey the covenant. So brothers and sisters, our covenant with God is based on what he has done for us and only secondarily on what we do in response. So that's the contents of the covenant. So next is the B is next listed what the weaker party needed to do. So in Deuteronomy chapter 5 verses 7 to 21, that's the 10 commandments, brothers and sisters. So I will read to you these readings. So Deuteronomy chapter 5 verses 7 to 12, 7 to 21 states that worship no God but me. Do not make for yourselves images of anything in heaven or on earth or in the water under the earth. Do not bow down to any idol or worship it. For I am the Lord your God, and I tolerate no rivals. I bring punishment on those who hate me and on their descendants down to the third and fourth generations, brothers and sisters. But I show my love to the thousands of generations of those who love me and obey my laws. Do not use my name for evil purposes, for I, the Lord your God, will punish anyone who misuses my name. Observe the Sabbath and keep it holy, as I, the Lord your God, have commanded you. You have 6 days in which to do your work, but the seventh day is a day of rest dedicated to me. On that day, no one is to work, brothers and sisters. Neither you, your children, your slaves, your animals, nor the foreigners who live in your country. Your slave must rest just as you do. Remember that you were slaves in Egypt, and that I, the Lord your God, rescued you from my great power and strength. That is why I commanded you to observe the Sabbath. Respect your father and your mother, as I, the Lord your God, commanded you, so that you may go well with you and so that you may live a long time in the land that I am giving you. Do not commit murder. Do not commit adultery. Do not steal. Do not accuse anyone falsely. Do not desire another man's wife. Do not desire his house, his land, his slaves, his cattle, his donkeys, or anything else that he owns. So that's the words of God for that in that reading. So as I continue, brothers and sisters, there are some basic truths from the Old Testament. We'll see. So, concluded with a list of blessings and curses. So, blessings, being faithful equals blessings, wherein we have to obey God, right? So if we obey, God will pour out his blessings. But if we disobey, brothers and sisters, curses will be ours. So we are breaking God's commandments. So breaking is like breaking our relationship with him. So there are consequences, brothers and sisters. So it's either, so we should be really careful for that, right? So for the New Testament teachings, number one, God wants to make a covenant with us and enter into a personal relationship with us. What is this? So in Luke chapter 22, verse 20, it says that in the same way, he gave them the cup after the supper and saying, "This cup is God's new covenant, sealed with my blood, which is poured out for you." So Jesus came to bring out a new covenant. So the new covenant is not merely a matter of obeying a set of laws, but of entering into a living relationship with Jesus. So in number two, as with the old covenant, the new covenant is not an agreement between equals. It is not done on our initiative, but rather God acted first by sending Jesus. So so Jesus was sent to us by the God the Father. In number three, all that God asks of us flows from what God has already done for us. So God has commands are taking in the light of his action in Jesus. So we have that in I can share to you in John 13 verse 34, a new commandment of love. So in John 13 verse 34 says, "And now I give you a new commandment, love one another as I have loved you." So you must love one another. That's the commandment of God. So number four, as we continue, brothers and sisters, there are also blessings and curses. So blessings and curses, when our response has eternal consequences. So if we obey, there are blessings. If we disobey, there are curses. So in the internal consequences, it's our choice, brothers and sisters, right? It's either we go to heaven or we go to hell. So what are our response for this, brothers and sisters? So number one is to love, in John 13:34-35, to love one another is the commandment of the new covenant. So I will share to you what is John 13 verses 34-35. So 34-35 says that, and now I give you a new commandment. Love one another as I love you. So you must love one another. If you have love for one another, then everyone will know that you are my disciples. That's the message of how to love one another. But in the church today, brothers and sisters, there is a tendency to interpret this as a call to love all men and women. So we are always the churches or our priests always say that we should love our brothers and sisters. So true, we must love everyone. But the New Testament distinguishes between love for those who are not Christians also, and the covenant love of Christians brethren. So that's the number one. No? So we move forward to number two. We form community where we can live the practical expression, or where we express our love in practical ways, brothers and sisters. But in this, many Christian groups are unsuccessful. Why? Because their models are secular in nature, not bound by religious rules. So their aim is self-fulfillment, which promotes selfishness, or just like personal interest, brothers and sisters. So, but also the relationship. So other communities, their relationship are not based on a covenant. So there is also no authority to oversee the relationship. So that is one factor, and there's is one more. There is no common life, no significant relationship within the body. So that is what. So that's sometimes that's why some communities will not last, right? So it's not like MFC that we have our own. We are a structured community. So number three, the Bible model for relationship. We become biblical model for relationship. Like example for this is like a family. So as a community, we have a membership in one body. So we have a loving relationship between brothers and sisters. So we do sharing our what we have, right? And of course we have authority and order because we have the structure from the chapter serva, from our servant general down to our general membership. So the nature of our So number four is the nature of our commitment in MFC. So the nature of our commitment of MFC. So number one is to love and serve God as a community. Commitment. This is our commitment in our community, MFC. We are to love and serve God. So we are to be God's own servant people. So servant leaders, members, we have to serve each other. So you are just called a leader or a servant leader, but you should serve heartily to our brothers and sisters, to our general membership. So we are God's own servant people. Letter B, to love and serve one another. So we are no longer our own masters, brothers and sisters. So, but we are to lay down our lives for one another. So how do we lay down? So we have to help, support. So practically, we should be willing to meet our brothers' needs, brethren needs, and with our personal resources, we can extend our help. So we have to live our lives in true righteousness and holiness. So we have to live our life, so faithfully follow the covenant, brothers and sisters, in order to live our lives in true righteousness and holiness. So let us always follow or remember our covenant, MFC covenant. We are to be a people the Lord can use us as a body. So as a body, we have unity, order, peace, and support for our common life, for our common purpose and interest. And the last one is we are to be light and leaven to the world. So how to be light? So be a missionary. Be a source of inspiration to others. Spread the good news. Invite people to attend our Christian life seminars. Invite people, relatives to attend our LCSC, Live Christ, Share Christ. So what are the practical considerations for this? So the practical consideration for this is A, clearly spelled out our commitments. So let's going back again to our MFC covenant, brothers and sisters. So we know already what are our covenants, so we have to read it again, and we have to, to be a witness of that covenant. Letter B, an authority to govern the body and oversee the set of relationships. So in our MFC community, our pastoral structure, we have our own pastoral structure, like from the household, we have the unit, we have the chapter servants, chapter leaders. So because our community, MFC, is a structured community, and we have also our overall governing and pastoral authorities, like our servant councils, from the servant general to down to the general membership, brothers and sisters. So letter C, taking responsibility for one another and for our common life. So not just the responsibility of the leaders, but of every member. So every member has its own responsibility towards its brothers and sisters. So we acknowledge fraternal correction, and also we do intercession, especially intercessions of prayers, like pray for the sick, pray for the souls of the purgatory, especially our relatives who died this COVID virus, as part of who died for this pandemic. So, and also, so there are intercessory prayers to be offered to them. And also financial help, brothers and sisters. So we have to take responsibility for one another, to our brothers and sisters. If it is needed, if we can help financially, so we help. And letter D, a visible common life. What is this visible common life? We attend our various meetings. We are always there during our gatherings, events, our national conferences, and teaching nights, our LBS. So we have a visible common life, brothers and sisters. So these are the 4 practical considerations to be actively do as member of this community, Missionary Families of Christ. So, brothers and sisters, we are in our last part, conclusions. So for the conclusion, the Old and the New Testaments are God's old and new efforts to establish our relationship with His people, to us. So as member of the community, we should know and we should learn that MFC is a vehicle, an opportunity by which we can respond fully to God if we faithfully follow our MFC covenant. So for these brothers and sisters, it's very clear. May God be praised. Thank you and good night. So for tonight, talk number 1, we have our topic discussion. We have one question to be shared by our breakout rooms. So the question is, how can MFC help you in living out your covenant with God and with His people? So we have our assigned breakout rooms. So the service team will do that for you. So thank you, brothers and sisters, for listening. Thank you and have a good night to everyone.
Hello, brothers and sisters. We will be assigning you now to your breakout rooms. Just